Geeks with beards, geeks with beards. Look who's here, geeks with beards. No need to fear, we're right here. We got beards, so listen clear. Geeks with beards, geeks with beards. Look who's here, geeks with beards. No need to fear, we're right here. I'm in your ear, so listen clear. No one else doing it like us. Also, we just might cuss, just cause. No, we ain't playing, and we're just saying, and we're making a podcast. It's called
To infinity and beyond. By the power of Grayskull. What the hell? Come on, if you can find me 100 miles in the middle of nowhere, you think they go?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Geeks with Beards podcast. So what have you been into since our last episode, Sean? Anything new reading or watching?
Well, like you, I went and seen Beetlejuice, and we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've been busy with on the road and stuff. What about you?
Went and seen Beetlejuice, like you. Started finding this old cartoon called Skeleton Warriors on YouTube. It was from 1994. It's only 13 episodes, but it's a cool one. And the toys, I started collecting the toys. Lord help me.
I've seen that.
Lord help me. They were made by Playmates, same ones that makes Ninja Turtles.
The greatest figures of all time.
There are only 8 toys. 8 action figures and 2 other accessories. One's a horse, and the other one is like a kind of a motorcycle kind of thing, a bone cycle. The Skeleton Warriors are like the Ninja Turtle toys. They're made in action poses.
Okay.
So they're a pain in the butt to stand sometimes.
It just means they're ready to go, man.
But the heroes, the 3 heroes, Grimskull, Prince Lightstar, and Ursak, they actually have quite a bit of articulation for 1994 figures. They've got knee joints, elbow joints, shoulder joints, so they can stand just good, like, modern action figures can. But the actual Skeleton Warrior ones, they're pains in the butt. But, oh, God, the detail. Playmates put a lot of detail in the Skeleton Warriors. They've got, like, chrome eyes. They've got other chrome accents on them. They've got a great paint wash to make them look like skeletons. And just, dude, Playmates put a lot of money into this. And I'm sad that it didn't go longer than it did. I think the cartoon is great. It's a little dark, but it's a great cartoon. The toy line is beautiful. Love those toys, man. And it also spawned a 4-issue Marvel comic tie-in comic book, which I just got in the mail yesterday as of this recording.
We'll have to cover that.
I haven't read it yet, so I think it'll be a good thing to cover, though. Real quick, with if you don't mind me mentioning this, with your music, what have you been doing lately with your music, man, your band?
Well, this is September when we're recording this.
Yeah, September 18th.
In September, we do a lot of suicide awareness shows and stuff like that. So all the money goes to suicide prevention.
Great cause, man.
Yeah, that's what we've been up to this month. That's why it's been so busy.
Hell yeah. So anybody out there, it's a great thing to support, wherever you live at. If you've got a local chapter that can help support suicide awareness and try to help people from doing stuff like that, there's always options. Life is precious, and do everything you can to help these people out, whether it's donate money, whether it's to talk to them, write to them, or something.
Yeah, for sure. And if people need resources, you can dial 988. You can text it. They have a chat online. If you need help, they'll help you figure what you need to do.
Yeah, it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing.
Brightest day, blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
All right, so we'll get into Green Lantern.
All right, Green Lantern, Emerald Twilight. 3-issue miniseries from 1994. We'll also throw in an issue, number 46. It's a Reign of the Supermen tie-in. It also, kind of kicks the story off a little bit. But, so Sean, what's your connection with Green Lantern?
Very little. I think I've read Blackest Night and this.
The Blackest Night's really good. Yeah, that was really good. I liked it. Brightest Day was okay. It was more of a Swamp Thing story. It ended up being a Swamp Thing story by the end of it. But it's pretty good, yeah. Now, this is amazing. This is my favorite Green Lantern story, I think, of any of them that they've put out over the years. So, Hal goes crazy. The basis of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a little bit of quick, brief history on Green Lantern stuff. Of course, originally he came out. We had Alan Scott in 1940, the Golden Age, as they called it. And then around 1960, Hal Jordan popped up on the scene as the Earth's Green Lantern. Then he started doing a little team up with Green Arrow throughout the 70s, a little bit in the 80s. And then in the comic books, he left the Green Lanterns. He chose relationship over being a Green Lantern. And then John Stewart was called in. The number 2 guy was called in to be the Green Lantern.
The number 1 guy. Let's get that straight.
Oh,
We're getting that later, though.
But, so yeah, he was called in for a while. Hal came back, and then this situation happened. So it's been crazy. A lot of people remember Kyle Rayner from the 90s because he was the main Green Lantern for almost 10 years, roughly, while Hal was gone. It was almost a Barry Allen Flash situation when he was gone and, Wally took over for him.
Okay.
So that's kind of what they did. And that's what they did with Kyle and Wally. They made them the new Hal Jordan, Barry Allen team up. They put them as buddies. So it's a new generation of Green Lantern and Flash team ups, where in the 80s and stuff like that, you had Barry and Hal. But yeah, so we're going to kick it off here with issue 46 from 1993, the Reign of the Superman tie-in. The writer is Gerard Jones. Art was done by M.D. Bright. And inker Romeo Tanghal. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Tanghal. Basically, in this issue, Hal's been gone in space, doing some Green Lantern business. And during this time, the whole Return of Superman situation has happened. He's come back, and he's been fighting Cyborg Superman, the Superboy, Steel. All of them have been trying to help him out, fighting Mongol. When Hal returns to Earth, he discovers that Mongol and Cyborg Superman have completely obliterated Coast City, his hometown, or home city. It's about 7 million people just gone, wiped out, killed.
Did they say how he did it? Because I didn't get that from the issue.
I don't remember if it was like a nuke or some kind of bomb, but I know he resurrected one of his engine cities in its place. So I'm assuming it was some kind. I don't remember. I have to go back and reread the Reign of the Superman because I think it takes place in the main Reign of Superman comic, I think. So, but yeah, he obliterated completely Coast City. 7 million people gone, nothing left, just crater in the hole, then he puts his engine city. So Hal comes back, and he's witnessing Superman now in his black suit. We all remember that. Yeah. Fighting Cyborg Superman. So he goes right after Mongol. And of course, yes, he does have the yellow weakness that the Green Lanterns had at this time.
Oh, we'll talk about that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So basically, Mongol and Cyborg Superman, he's wiped out Steel, Superboy, Eradicator, and Supergirl, but not Supergirl. You remember, I think she was Matrix or something like that, I believe.
Was that the clone, like in the Death of Superman, the same girl?
I believe so, because I remember when I looked it up, it said Supergirl, and then beside of it, in quotations, it said Matrix.
Okay,
something like that.
Yeah, that's the same one.
So Mongol and him had wiped them out. So here comes Hal Jordan. He's mad. He's distraught. He's been gone. As far as he knows, everybody he loves, family, friends, everybody's gone. Nobody's left. So he's filled with rage, and he's just heading straight for Mongol. Starts trying to whoop up on Mongol, gets a few good punches in. Mongol, of course, he kind of whoops up on him. He breaks his arm, he breaks his leg, but Hal gets a few good shots in. He finds Steel's hammer laying on the ground from where Mongol had fought him and knocked him down. I'm taking it. So he takes his hammer. Mongol's basically making fun of him. You can't pick that up. You're just a human. You can't do this. Hal basically constructs a big armor suit around him, picks up Steel's hammer, whop Mongol right in under the chin, knocks him the hell out, takes Mongol out. He momentarily thinks about killing him, but he doesn't.
Now, is Mongol like his version of Doomsday?
No, he's not particular just for the Green Lanterns. He was just another alien villain in the DC universe. He was the guy who had the war world.
Okay.
And stuff. He would go around conquering planets and things like that. I don't think he was nearly as powerful as Doomsday, but he was pretty strong, though. If I remember right, he's pretty strong.
I mean, he wiped out a whole city.
Yeah, well, yeah, him and Cyborg Superman did that one, yeah. So after he defeats Mongol, Hal goes and checks on Superboy and Supergirl and Steel, And they basically tell him, like, look, behind this door, Superman is fighting for his life. He's fighting Cyborg Superman. You know, we've got to get in there. We've got to help him. And Hal says, stand back. And he uses his power ring. He busts through the wall. And just as he's busts through the wall, you see a panel where Superman, his fist is going through Cyborg Superman's chest. And basically Superman's like, you know, this is the end for you. You're done. You know, he's like, I'm back. And so he, Superman's back. You know, Hal tells him, you know, hey, took out Mongol, and he sees Superman. He tells Superman, he's like, hey, you chill. You just came back from the dead. Me and the other guys, we'll take care of this mess. We'll put him in jail and everything, you know, that needs to be taken care of. And Hal thinks that his former girlfriend, Carol Ferris, he thinks she's among the dead. So he's really distraught. But you find out that she's been off in another situation. It's in the Green Lantern comic store. I forgot what it was now. And he's flying and he sees her on the outskirts and he gives her a big hug. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I thought you were gone. He's like, I thought I lost you. And she's like, no, so you didn't lose me. She said, but we got to talk. And she says there's somebody that you know has been kidnapped. And that leads into issue 47, which I'm not going to include in this because it's not part of the storyline. It's basically a Green Lantern, Green Arrow team-up book about them going and rescuing some people. You can look it up, listeners. It's a pretty good comic. I have it, but I didn't include it in this because it didn't have anything to do with the Emerald Twilight. But 46 did, so it was the main thing that set Hal off.
That makes sense.
So we get into issue 48. It's Emerald Twilight Part 1. And we have a new writer, Ron Marz, and he'll take over writing for Green Lantern for a good hunk of this run in the 90s and 2000s.
Well,
he took over from Gerard Jones.
Out of the two issues, between the two, I like his writing better.
Yeah, Ron Marz does really good writing. I forgot how many issues, but he done a good hunk of definitely Kyle Rayner stuff. The art is by Bill Willingham, and inks again by Romeo Tanghal. I'm probably butchering that. So we open it up. Hal is mourning the loss of Coast City. He's just on his knees. He's just mourning, crying. He's lost everybody. You know, that's his hometown. And it's cool because this is the first time, because usually I think in DC Comics, it's always usually fictional cities, right? I think.
DC is, yeah.
Okay, well, in this one, he actually says California. So Coast City's in California, supposedly in the DC universe at this time. I don't know about nowadays.
Well, that makes sense. They do base them in real states because Metropolis is supposed to be in Kansas. Or not Metropolis, Smallville.
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, Kansas. So this is the first time that I remember them saying that. So yeah, he's in California. Coast City makes sense. He's a beach boy, I guess. You know?
Yeah. So he's a pilot and all that
he
stuff,
is,
right?
yeah. He's a pilot just like his father. And unfortunately, you know, if you know anything about Hal Jordan's history, it's how he lost his father. They're both test pilots for Ferris Air, and his father was testing an airplane for him when he was a young kid, and he was watching his dad, and his dad crashed and died. And it's kind of odd. You would think Hal wouldn't want to get into that, but he decided, hey, I'm going to pick up my dad's mantle, and I'm going to be a test pilot too.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, Hal, he's mourning it. He's on his knees. He's like, what can I do? He's like, I should be able to do something. You know, I'm Green Lantern. I have this almost inexhaustible power on my finger. I should be able to do something. So he takes what power he has left in his ring, and he basically creates a green energy dome over what was, you know, the remnants of what's Coast City. And he recreates some people. He recreates his father. He recreates an old past girlfriend. And he's walking through Coast City. He's recreated the buildings and everything, all from memory. And he kind of gets into a conversation with his dad father, and his mom. He's never felt loved by his dad. He never felt like his dad was ever proud of him for anything. Because Hal was kind of not really they had several kids. He's got a couple brothers and sisters. He was maybe kind of the kind of kid that didn't listen, you know, kind of against authority a little bit, you know.
He was the rebellious one.
I guess to a point, a little bit, I guess, you know, yeah. And, but he brings up his dead mother. He recreates her, and she's basically like, look, you know, you need to hang on to the good memories. Let go of the pain and anger that you have. Because if you keep the pain and anger, all it's going to do is poison your mind and poison your soul.
Oh, yeah.
Remember all the good stuff. Don't remember the bad stuff. Which is a good thing for anybody, really, you know.
Solid advice.
Remember the good, you know. So he does, but Hal doesn't just want memories. He wants to bring everybody back. He wants to resurrect Coast City and all of its inhabitants, all of that. And he believes he can do it because, you know, with enough willpower, he thinks he can do it because, that's what the Lanterns do. With their willpower, they can create physical constructs with their power rings. So he basically, I think this is when he snaps first. Well, he snaps first, I think, when he comes back and his city's gone. He snaps a little bit more because he starts getting a god complex.
Yeah.
And I think it's in this issue, there is a panel where you see behind him, it's almost a green cross.
Yeah.
And he's in the sky floating. So that imagery of him as Jesus, as God, kind of, and he says it to himself, he's like, I could be a god with this power. So he starts snapping, he's starting to turn.
He's DC Jesus.
Yeah, he's DC Jesus, and in all the bad ways. So Hal's ring runs out of power, because at this time, Green Lanterns had a 24-hour charge on their rings.
Okay.
And that's why they all have power batteries. And once that 24 hours would run out, or before it ran out, just to make sure they had enough power, they would have to recharge it in their power battery. And they could kind of create like a pocket universe to hide their lanterns in sometimes, or some of them could just hide it in a cubby hole in a wall or something. Kyle Rayner, when he became Green Lantern, I want to say he had his like in a pocket dimension or something. That way anywhere he was at, which we'll get to it, but when he becomes Green Lantern, that whole thing goes away. The rules change because of what Hal does here in this series. The rules all change.
Cool.
But Hal's ring runs out of energy, so the construct goes away. Everything he just created is gone. He's pissed. He is mad. He's like, I need more power. He's like, I know I can do this. I can bring back my family. I can bring back everybody I know and I love. I just need more power. Well, as he's sitting there thinking about that, one of the Guardians of the Universe who created the Green Lantern Corps, which are like an intergalactic police force is what the Green Lanterns are. And each one of them have a sector of space to patrol. And I think there's either 32 or 3,500 sectors. Earth is part of Sector 2814. And so a Guardian shows up and says, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern of Earth, we need you to return to Oa. OA, that's the home planet of the Green Lantern Corps. You broke the most sacred rule, using the Green Lantern power for personal gain. Hal's basically like, fuck you. He's kind of been butting heads with the Guardians ever since he became a Green Lantern. Because he's besides Alan Scott of the 40s, when they kind of rebooted the series, he was kind of said as being the first Green Lantern in the Corps. Because all the other Lanterns were various other alien species. Earth was seen as a backwater planet, kind of. So he was the very first human to ever be a Green Lantern, because when Alan Scott was a Lantern, there was no Corps. It's weird history, but there was a something that the Guardians had created, a star heart that fell to Earth. He created a lantern and a ring out of it. The Corps wasn't created until Hal Jordan in the 60s.
So would this be one of those things they retconned and just gave Alan?
They kind of did, because when they I forget the people who took it over in the 60s with Hal Jordan, but of course it was a space age.
Okay.
So they wanted to do more of a science fiction-y take on Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, because before it was more mystical with Alan Scott. So yeah, it's a little more science fiction-y and stuff. So they did kind of retcon it a little bit in the 60s. So basically the energy projection of the Guardian tells them, come back. We're, disciplinary actions. You broke the sacred rule. And Hal punches the projection, and by doing that, it repowers his ring. He's able to recharge his ring. And he basically says to himself, he's like, oh, I'll come back to Oa. You're not going to like me when I get there. And you see him, boom, he jets off. He jets off, starts leaving Earth's atmosphere. And by the end of the issue, you see him going up in the sky, and it focuses on Kyle Rayner and his girlfriend, the one that got refrigerated. I forgot her name.
Refrigerator woman.
You see them sitting on the beach somewhere, and they're looking up in the sky, and they're like, oh, hey, look, it's a shooting star. And they're seeing Hal, but they don't know what's going on. So this is your first introduction to the character of Kyle Rayner, who will later become the Green Lantern for most of the 90s and 2000s.
I didn't get that was Kyle Rayner when I read
that's
it.
Kyle and his girl, Alex, I believe was her name. Yeah, they're sitting there watching Hal leave Earth to go to Oa.
So, she made a wish and everything. She ends up in a refrigerator.
Well, But all right, we'll jump on into part 2, Green Lantern number 49. Ron Marz is our writer again. A different artist, Fred Haynes. And this time we've got 2 inkers, Romeo Tongal and Dennis Kramer. Basically, we pick it up. Hal is heading to Oa to get more power, because he feels like can get to the battery, the central power battery that fuels all Green Lantern's rings, if he taps into that main source, he'll have all the power he needs to recreate Coast City and everybody in it. So you catch him, he's flying through space. The Guardians know he's coming, and Guardians knows he's mad. So they start basically telling other Green Lanterns, you need to stop him. So they're throwing various Green Lanterns. Unfortunately, they don't give you names, and I can't remember them. A couple that I do remember was one female. Her name was Boudica, Boodika. She's a big character back in the day. She may still be now.
I was going to ask about her.
She's a pretty standout character in the 80s and 90s, and I want to say even throughout the time I read of Kyle Rayner, she was too. Nowadays, I don't know. I haven't read Green Lantern since Grant Morrison did him a few years ago. I can't remember. So yeah, he takes her out. He takes another Green Lantern out, and as he's taking them out, he's not killing them, but he is taking their power rings from them and putting them on him, which gives him more power.
So that adds to his collective power?
It adds to his collective power, yep. And, of course, there are various sizes, various designs. So he keeps going, keeps fighting more Green Lanterns, just boom, boom, boom. He's taking them out one at a time. They can't beat him because at the time, Hal was basically considered the best Green Lantern. So he can't be stopped. Nobody's able to stop him. None of them can. And the last Lantern that tries to stop him before he gets to Oa is Kilowog. And he's the guy who trained him. Well, him and Sinestro both did, but Kilowog kind of trained him a little bit. If you remember the live-action movie, he was the big, kind of hulking-looking creature alien that trained him. Yeah. And he basically tells Hal, he's like, look, you can't do this. You have to stop. You have to realize, you're in the wrong here, what you're doing, Just go talk to the Guardians, we'll work something out.
He's like, no.
No, yeah. He's like, no. He's like, I'm sorry, Kilowog. He's like, because he is focused. He is tunnel vision. He's got one idea, one thought, and that's to bring back Coast City and to hell with anything else. Yeah. And so he takes Kilowog out, takes his power ring. Like I say, he's not killing them. He's just knocking them out.
I thought he was killing them.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Not yet. That's what I thought back in the day when I first read it. So he gets to Oa. And the Guardians are all there. I forgot how many there are. The Guardians are all there, and they tell him, they're like, you have to surrender. Surrender your power ring and all the other power rings. You've broken the law. You've broken the sacred rule. You have to be punished for it. And basically they said, you have to understand what's going to happen is if you drain the central power battery, that's going to take every bit of power from all the other Green Lanterns. And Kilowog comes up to him, and he tells him the same things. Like, you have to understand that, right? You drain the central power battery. What about the other Green Lanterns out in space? Mm-hmm. What about the ones that might be fighting somewhere else? As soon as you drain the battery, their rings are dead, and they're dead because the Green Lanterns, they create basically like a force field around them so they can fly through space.
And that's how they can breathe.
That's how they can breathe. Yeah. So once he drains that central power battery, they're dead in the water, for lack of a better term. And Hal's like, don't care. He's like, I don't care. And Kilowog tries to stop him one more time. Hal turns around and blasts him and incinerates Kilowog. He kills him. You see his burning, charred skeleton laying on the ground of Oa.
Yeah, that was
his
pretty
best
sick
friend. Basically his best friend in the Green Lantern Corps. He kills him. He is that far gone that he doesn't care.
So this is like Injustice Superman here.
Yeah, Hal is always, like you said, he's always been a little rebellious with the Guardians, kind of stood up against them, disagreed with them, because the Guardians, they enforce these laws. They created the Green Lantern Corps to police the universe, police these sectors, but yet they won't get off their butts and do anything. Yeah. They basically took their emotions away to where their only thinking is justice and law, but they haven't done something in so long, they can't physically defend themselves, really, honestly.
Are these guys comparable to Marvel's The Watchers? They look kind of like them, but
kind of. They do basically say, since they are called the Guardians of the Universe, they basically they try to say their word is law, basically. Okay. And that's kind of why Hal would bang heads with him sometimes. Not just him. I mean, Guy Gardner did. I want to say John probably banged heads with him sometimes, but Hal always banged heads with him. He always disagreed. That's why they'd always say, so we should have never had a human become a Green Lantern. So after he kills Kilowog, he's walking on up to the power battery, and you see a kind of a shadowy figure pop up, and Hal's face just kind of goes blank. His mouth drops open, his eyes get big, and you turn the page, and the last person that you would ever think that the Guardians would ask to stop Hal Jordan, it's Sinestro.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. To
Yeah,
see that.
because if anybody knows the history with Sinestro, he was at the time the best Green Lantern. When Hal was recruited, he was basically given to Sinestro to train him, to make him, another, comparable to Sinestro.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Kilowog both did, but he was his main trainer, Sinestro was. And then Sinestro kind of decided, I don't like what the Guardians are doing. I disagree with them. I think I can do a better job. So he basically tries to get rid of the Guardians, turn on them, and so he gets stripped of his Green Lantern powers, and he ends up going to a planet called Quard, and ends up getting a power ring, which is basically yellow energy.
Mm-hmm.
And he becomes a big villain. Him and Hal Jordan, they always butt heads there for years and years and years. And so yeah, it shocked me that he was, and he gets a Green Lantern ring back. He's got like a cape with a Green Lantern symbol on the back of it. So the Guardians are basically pulling every punch they can pull. Mm-hmm. And Sinestro was their last ditch effort, because he's done killed Kilowog. He's done beat up all these other Green Lanterns. So they're like, well, I guess we'll have to call Sinestro, because technically he's the best guy we had before Hal Jordan. So if the guy that trained Hal Jordan can't take him out, I don't know what we're going to do. So basically, that's where issue 50 picks up, and this is part 3, the final part of Emerald Twilight. And this comic is amazing. I love the cover to this one. It's a harder cardboard stock cover, and it's a glow-in-the-dark cover.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the little sparkles here of the stars and everything, and the Green Lantern title. And it says, it all ends here. And you see Hal Jordan flying out of the Central Power Battery, and he's in his Parallax uniform that he'll have by the end of it. And basically, we have our writer again is Ron Marz, and this will be our artist for a good hunk of Colin Rayner's comic books, Darryl Banks.
Okay.
He'll be our main artist for a good hunk of those comics.
Art was pretty good throughout all 3 of them.
They are. I think Darryl's my favorite, but yeah. And then, of course, Romeo Tangal has come back as our inker, and these 3 stay together for a good hunk of comic book run for Green Lantern in the 90s. So basically, Sinestro's taunting Hal by this time when we get to issue 50. He's taunting him. He's saying, hey, with all these rings, you're surely going to win. Hal's like, no, I don't need all these rings. Hal drops every single ring except for his power ring. He's like, I don't need all this extra power. All I need is my ring. I'll kick your ass by myself. He's like, I've done it before. He's like, I'd do it again. And so they start getting in a big brawl. They're fighting left and right, Green Lantern power against Green Lantern power, construct against construct, back and forth, back and forth. And both of them getting some really good hits. They're both bleeding. They're both bruised, And how Sinestro keeps taunting Hal. He's like, you know what? He's like, I've always been better than you. He's like, nobody else want to tell you that. I knew it. I've always been better than you. He said, when the Guardians gave you to me to train, they said, hey, try to make him at least half of what you are, and he'll be an okay Lantern, And that just keeps pissing Hal off. He doesn't realize how mad Hal is, how determined Hal is right now. He thinks, you're the Hal Jordan before I fought you. No, Hal is so determined now. He done killed Kilowog, so
yeah,
he's not going to care about Sinestro. Well, he didn't hate Sinestro anyway, so
he done crossed the line. Man.
Yeah. Once he killed Kilowog, there was no going back. He might have been able to go back before that. There might have been a moment of redemption before that, but no. When he killed Kilowog, that was it. He crossed that line. He's fighting Sinestro and everything, and like I said, he kills Kilowog, and he's like, the only way that this can be made right is to bring back Coast City. And he's Kilowog told him, he's like, you can't. You have to realize you can't do anything about that. It's gone. Mm-hmm. You just have to realize that, let it go.
You have to accept it. You
have to accept the loss, and he won't accept it. He said, no. He said, no. He said, I can't accept that. And that's when he kills Kilowog. And so he drops his ring. He's like, I don't deserve to be a Green Lantern no more. I don't deserve this ring. So he drops his ring, steps on it, crushes it, enters after he kills Sinestro. He snaps his neck and kills Sinestro. Then he takes off his ring.
He's killed 2 people now.
Yeah. Sinestro, that's okay. I'm not going that's okay. So he steps on, he takes his power ring off, he snaps on it, he crushes it, and he walks into the Central Power Battery. But before he does that, the Guardians show up and he confronts them and he tells them, he's like, he's like, you always used us as pawns. He's like, that's all we've ever. He said, we don't mean anything to you. He said, we never have. He said, basically, because when a Green Lantern would die, the ring would leave the lantern and go find somebody else that was worthy to become a Green Lantern. So
Okay.
basically, it's just, okay, you're dead. We're going to replace you with somebody else. So he's kind of right about that. The Guardians kind of, except for one, his name is Ganthet. He kind of cares. He still has a little bit of emotion to him.
The rest are assholes.
Yeah, in a way, basically. They're basically the generals telling the soldiers to go do the work for them. And, hey, if you die, you die. Basically.
They don't care about the front lines.
No. And he basically tells the Guardians, like, I know for a long time that we're just pawns. You don't give a damn about us. That's why we fight against you. And Hal goes into the central power battery, starts to drain it. And as he starts to drain it, the last-ditch effort that the Guardians do is they give Ganthet their power. Before he can drain it from them, they give Ganthet their life force, their Green Lantern power, basically.
All the other ones give.
All the other Guardians give Ganthet their power, so he can be the remaining Guardian, so he can try to do something to stop Hal. Because they failed at this point. At this point, they can't stop him from draining the battery. So they basically give their life force to Ganthet. You see in the background, the battery gets destroyed, and Hal Jordan emerges. It's a great little splash page. He emerges, and he's now Parallax. He's in his Parallax uniform, just standing there with his hand up high, and the power surging through him. And the Guardians' bodies they're dead. They're laying on the ground, piled up in front of him. And he basically steps over them, boom, flies away. He's heading back to Earth. He leaves. He's done his job. He's done. He's destroyed the battery. He's got all the power he thinks he needs. So he leaves. And we focus in on the pile of the Guardians' bodies that are laying there on the ground. And you see a little movement, and it's Ganthet. Because again, like I said, they protected him because Hal didn't know he was still alive. If Hal knew he was alive, I think Hal would have killed him right then and there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Hal didn't know he was alive, so Hal leaves. And Ganthet comes out from underneath the bodies of the other Guardians, and he picks up the fragments of Hal Jordan's power ring, where he had stepped on it and crushed it. He grabs it in his hand, and kind of like Superman with a piece of coal, he forges one last power ring, Green Lantern power ring in his hand. And he's basically, I've got to find somebody to become a new Green Lantern. That's his whole mission, is to try to find a new Green Lantern to stand up against Parallax and stop him. And so he flies off. And we get a scene back on Earth. Kyle Rayner's coming out of a bar or a restaurant in an alleyway, and Ganthet just pops up in front of him, lands in front of him, and Kyle Rayner looks at him and he's like, what the hell are you? What are you? And Ganthet looks at him, he's like, you'll have to do.
You're all I got, bro.
You're going to have to do, man. He ain't got much power left. Hands Kyle Rayner the power ring, and Kyle looks at him and he's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And Ganthet looks at me and says, you'll do what must be done. And he disappears.
Pretty vague, man.
Yeah, he disappears. And Kyle's like, okay. And Kyle's confused, he's shocked. He doesn't know what's going on. But he puts the ring on. As soon as he puts the power ring on, boom, he's got the Green Lantern costume on. And basically he's like, my life's about to take a big change right about now. We have a new Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner. And Parallax is on his way to Earth to resurrect Coast City. And it's going to open up another few issues of Kyle and Hal fighting each other. They'll even go back to Oa.
Oh, wow.
In a few issues later, they'll go back to Oa and fight. Kyle beats him up a decent amount. He kind of holds his ground, because what it is with Kyle Rayner is he's like a freelance artist. So he's got a lot of imagination.
Oh,
so he
cool.
comes up with all kinds of odd constructs and weird, more comic booky, science fiction-y kind of things, because in later issues he ends up becoming like a comic book artist. That's kind of what he's wanting to do, is become a comic book artist. So they go crazy with some of the constructs he makes, because previously they were kind of more the stuff you'd see on Earth, But with Kyle Rayner being that artist and that wild imagination and stuff, he creates all kinds of weird shit throughout the years as he's a Green Lantern. So basically, Hal stays Parallax for a little while in the comic books. There's a storyline that I'd like to cover sometime in the future called 0 Hour, and it covers the whole DC Comics at the time. And basically what Hal wants to do in that one is he wants to rewrite history. He wants to basically stop time and rewrite the universe in his image to be a more peaceful place. Yeah, again, the God complex, kind of.
A little bit, man.
That fails. I'm not going to go into it right now, but that fails. And then there's another little crossover that happens a little bit later called Final Night. And in that one, Hal he redeems himself, and he becomes a hero again. Basically, there's a creature called the Sun Eater who is heading to our sun to devour it. And if that happens, of course, everything in our Milky Way galaxy will be destroyed. Earth will freeze, it'll die.
So it's like the Phoenix.
In a way, yeah. And by the end of that run, that little mini-series, Hal sacrifices himself. He uses all of the power that he has in his body to stop the Sun Eater, and he dies. And in the process of that, he ends up becoming the new Spectre for a little while.
Is he still parallax at that point?
He is still parallax at that point, yes.
Cool.
But he kind of has a change of heart, realizes, I've been wrong all this time. And he thinks basically the last thing he can do to redeem himself is to save the planet, save his friends, and save the planet. So he sacrifices himself to stop the Sun Eater. And then he'll become the Spectre for a little while in the comic books, which is basically kind of God's herald, to kind of seek revenge on evil people on Earth and stuff. He becomes a Spectre for a while. And then we'll get, in 2004, he'll be brought back by Jeff Johns in Green Lantern Rebirth. He's brought back younger, because at this time, Hal Jordan's got the Reed Richards gray on each side of his head.
He looks very old.
I don't know really what his age is, because when they rebooted Green Lantern in 1990, this would be the third series. He'd already had the gray. So we'll say 40s, probably, maybe.
Oh, at least. He looks like he's in his mid-50s.
Yeah, maybe. Somewhere 40s, early 50s, maybe.
He's about ready to buy that Corvette.
Yeah. So when Jeff Johns brings him back in 2004 in Green Lantern Rebirth, he's brought back, and he's young again. I would say 30s, early 30s probably. He's brought back again. And we'll get into it here in a second. One of our listeners had a statement and a question about this. But in the process of him being brought back, everybody still doesn't trust him because of everything he done as Parallax. Well, nobody trusts him. Hal doesn't trust himself.
At what point does Kilowog and Sinestro come back? I
can't remember the exact timeline, but before Hal is reborn in 2004, Kyle will reform the Green Lantern Corps. The Green Lantern Corps. He will be possessed. Well, not really possessed. He will be taken over by Ion, which is the spirit of the Green Lanterns. And he becomes almost kind of a god, sort of. But he ends up reforming the Green Lantern Corps and kind of bringing everybody back to life. He brings the Guardians back to life and everything, before his run ends. Which he's still a Green Lantern. He doesn't stop being a Green Lantern just because Hal is reborn. And in this, they retcon the Parallax situation. Because during this one, it's basically Hal just turns evil and takes a new name. Well, Jeff Johns and DC decided, we're going to retcon that, and we're going to say it was a parasite. That Parallax was the entity of the yellow power of fear, and he was trapped inside the central power battery. That's why the Green Lanterns had a weakness to yellow, was because he was inside the central power battery. It corrupted it.
So they're basically saying it's like a symbiote type.
Basically. So when Hal went into the central power battery, he was wrought with anger and sadness that it allowed Parallax to take him over. And when the power battery was destroyed, it released Parallax into the universe. So basically, Hal was working under Parallax's control, not his own. But Hal still feels guilty because Hal believes if he wasn't so angry and so distraught, he wouldn't have gave in to Parallax's advances, and he might have not have been able to be taken over by him. And a lot of people don't like it.
I don't either.
A lot of people don't like that retcon. But it had a lot to do with what Jeff Johns' future plans were going to be, which was creating the emotional spectrum, which brought in a whole new slew of different colored lantern corps. And blue and red and orange. The yellow was included, white, black, indigo. So that kind of, because all of those corps all have a spirit animal, for lack of a better term, that basically where their power comes from. And they all have names. You can look it up online. I don't remember their names, unfortunately.
I equate them to the Power Rangers.
Kind of. And this would lead into the next big Green Lantern story that I really love, Blackest Night. that happened
Yeah.
in the early
That was a
2000s.
good story.
Yeah. And it basically got to do with them fighting Necron. He's this evil force that creates the Black Lanterns, which is death.
He's badass.
He is badass. Got a big sickle and
Yeah.
shit. So, and all the different corps have to come together to fight him and defeat him. So you've got the greens and the blues and all of them come together, and they have to deputize some people. So you get a few other heroes that become other lanterns. The Flash becomes a blue lantern for a little while.
Yeah.
I believe Superman, he might become a blue. I don't remember 100%.
Lex was orange.
Lex becomes orange, which is avarice or greed, which is funny because since they're greed, there's only one person that's the orange lantern. But then Larfleeze, and then he makes Lex Luthor one of them. He's like, I'm gonna take his shit over. It's gonna all be mine. But that's for another time. We're gonna try to cover Blackest Night sometime in the future.
That'd be a good one. I'd be excited for that one.
But so, what do you think about Emerald Twilight, man? What do you think about that?
Well, I'm always weary whenever we cover a 90s comic because you never know what you're going to get.
That is true. I agree.
Writing wise and exposition wise, but this one I was thoroughly surprised with.
I'm happy to hear that.
I enjoyed it. I was like, well, I'll sit down here. I read a couple issues yesterday, and I read the whole thing like less than an hour.
I'm happy to hear that, man. I was hoping you'd like it because, like I said, it's my favorite Green Lantern story. It's my favorite one.
No, I don't even like Hal Jordan, but him as an asshole, I like that.
I don't understand your hate for Hal Jordan, but it's my favorite story, even though it is Hal becoming a villain. It's my favorite Green
I
Lantern
think
story.
that's why, because it's just straight it's almost like when we were doing Killing Joke, and it's like, what if somebody had a bad day? This is like, what would happen?
Yeah. And I mean, during the 90s, I mean, we had a lot, well, even in the 80s. Think about it. We've had Barry Allen's The Flash. He died, at the time, died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. But we find out later he's just trapped in the Speed Force. Yeah. So basically, then Wally West takes over as The Flash. Superman dies for about a year. Then we have these other four guys kind of come in. Then Hal Jordan gets turned evil.
Yeah.
Kyle Rayner takes over as a new Green. So basically, it's kind of a changing of the guard for a younger audience. I think trying to capture a younger audience for the comics in the 90s, I think.
I think that was smart. They needed to do that more, to be honest. To give us new characters.
Yeah, because we go from 1994 to 2004, we go 10 years without Hal Jordan technically being a Green Lantern. Yeah. He's Parallax for a couple of years. He's Spectre for a few years, and then he's not reborn until 2004. So he goes 10 years basically not being a Green Lantern. He's still in the comics, but he's not a Green Lantern.
Well, it gives you room to grow the universe, too.
Yeah, and then, Barry, he's gone, 85, 86? Yeah. He doesn't come back until like 2004, 2005, because I think Jeff Jones brings him back about the same time he does Hal Jordan.
Yeah, he did.
He brings Barry back in the Flash Rebirth, so that's like 20 years that Barry's gone. And then Wally is the Flash for everybody in the 90s. I didn't know about Barry Allen for the longest time, when I first started getting into comics. So, it was kind of a changing of the guard in the 90s. They did it with Batman, with Bane breaks his back and Azrael takes over as Batman for a while. So, like, some things stuck, some things didn't do as well, I think maybe.
They always have a hard time replacing Batman.
Yeah. So, of course, Bruce comes back eventually. Superman gets brought back to life about a year later. Hal takes 10 years, but he comes back, eventually. And it opens up the doors to where it used to be there was only one person that was a Green Lantern on Earth. Now there's multiples.
Yeah.
You have Hal, you have Kyle, at one time you had John Stewart, you had Guy Gardner. Alan Scott wasn't a Green Lantern, but he still had that Starheart power, so he still had a Green Lantern type power.
See, that's a bit excessive for one planet.
Yeah.
When you got Superman, the Flash, Wonder Woman.
He had a daughter, Jade, that Kyle ends up falling in love with for a little while. She's all green skinned and she kind of has Green Lantern powers. She becomes a Green Lantern for a while. Then later on, with the New 52, you have Simon Baz, the first Middle Eastern character become a Green Lantern. He was really cool. Yeah. I liked him. He was really cool. He's still a Green Lantern, I'm pretty sure, in the comics. Then you have a female. I want to say her first name is Jessica or Jennifer. I apologize. I don't remember her full name. She became a Green Lantern, and her and Simon teamed up for a long time in the comics. So, it opened that door to where you've got 4, 5, 6 people as Earth Green Lanterns now compared to just the one back in the day. Yeah. Green Lantern is a rich history in comic books. I don't remember it all. I stopped reading, like I said, quite a bit. But it's a rich history. It's still going on now. Grant Morrison did it for 24 issues. His run was really good. Then they've done a couple other series of doing some stuff right now to where the Green Lanterns have become the Alpha Lanterns. They're in control by the United Planets. The Guardians basically handed them over to them. I've read that that's a really cool situation right now. So, but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. It's a great story. It's my favorite Green Lantern story. A little sad, but it's that one bad day situation with Hal Jordan.
If you guys like this, and I highly suggest you go seek it out. The single issues will run you about $20 to $40 to $50, depending on the grade.
I was really surprised. The price on those, I'm like, damn, I'm glad I got mine.
Yeah.
And mine are first printings.
Yeah.
So.
They're worth it if you want some key issues. I definitely recommend that. Or you can get a paperback, $15-20.
Yeah, the paperback, like I said, it seems like it's always the better economical situation. But if you're a Green Lantern fan, I feel like you need to have this in your collection because it's a key moment in Green Lantern history.
This would be essential, I would say, for
like
Green Lantern fans.
It and Blackest Night, it's a very essential. And even, the Emerald Dawn stuff that they did in the early 90s kind of retconned the history of Green Lantern just a little bit, but definitely Emerald Twilight. It's an essential part of Green Lantern history for sure.
Yep. All right, so we'll get to comments and questions.
Yeah, we've got one from Instagram, and I believe we got one from Facebook as well.
Yep.
We'll get into who Sean's favorite Green Lantern is.
Oh, yeah.
And if he could be another emotional spectrum, what other Lantern Corps would he want to be part of?
So we did ask that question as well on our Instagram and Facebook accounts.
We did, sure did.
In Discord. You can find us on Discord as well.
And we're on YouTube, too.
Yes. Should you not hear us now, go find YouTube.
All of our plugging at the end of the episode.
Your style's played out, Hal.
Nobody slings a ring like me.
Some of us do it even better.
All right, so this comes from BLK Jared 812. He says his favorite color is blue. If I'm not mistaken, a few years ago they were doing a Spectrum of Speed Force as well for the Flash. I enjoy the Green Lantern anime series is continued in Young Justice. And then he also said his favorite Lantern as a 90s kid and person of color was John Stewart. Mm-hmm. Which I'm with you, dude. John Stewart's the man.
Well, John Stewart also in the 90s, after this story happened in Hal destroyed the Green Lantern Corps, he ended up getting recruited to the Black Stars. And the Black Stars were another kind of Green Lantern Corps group that were formed by different aliens and stuff. He became the leader of the Black Stars for a good hunk of time in the 90s before he ended up rejoining the Lanterns later on.
He's just awesome in everything I've seen him in.
And they retconned his history a little bit too. At one time he was basically an architect, and so his constructs were really cool too. A lot of them was building materials and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I want to say that either he was an architect first or he was a military man first. I forget which one came first, but they retconned his history a little bit.
All right. So thank you, BLK Jared 812.
Yes, thank you so much.
We appreciate you commenting. And what you got there, man?
All right, this one comes from our Facebook group, and this comes from Jordan Jennings. Jordan says, I'm a Guy Gardner person myself. He's my kind of punk. Yeah, Guy is. Guy's an asshole. I mean, we get punched out by Batman. you know. And at this time, real quick, Guy Gardner, he was, of course, not a Green Lantern. He was the Warrior. That's some alien technology. He could morph his body. It's a whole thing. Definitely look that up too, listeners. I think you'll like that too. But Jordan says, I'm a Guy Gardner person. He's my kind of punk. For my question, Jordan says, how do you feel about the whole Parallax heel turn being retconned as a space bug instead of Hal's frustration, grief, and despair over the destruction of Coast City? As we said before, honestly, I like it better when it's Hal having his bad moment, and it being fueled by his anger, his sadness, like you said, his frustration. I know why DC and Jeff Johns did what they did, but yeah, I prefer it just being Hal's own doing, becoming a villain, not the parasite situation. But yeah, thank you, Jordan, for sending that in. Please send in more. Any other episode we do. And Guy's okay. I don't hate Guy Gardner. He's all right. I mean, he was with the Justice League for a while, you know.
I mean,
so
he's better than Hal.
You shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Why do you hate Guy Gardner or Hal Jordan so much?
He's an a-hole.
He's not an a-hole.
He's egotistical.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
That would be Guy Gardner.
I mean, look at that.
Guy Gardner's got more ego than...
Look at the costume when he becomes Parallax. He's got an ego.
That's a beautiful costume, man. All right, Van Pearl says, Geek is the... Geek is the name of God on the lips of hearts of all 40-somethings. This one will cover our Crow episode previously. The OG Crow film is a shining example of lightning in a bottle. The cast, the time period, the circumstances around the filming, all impossible to replicate, and no one should have tried. That said, what other franchises do you think should have foregone sequels to be a one-and-done film? Jaws and Jurassic Park come to mind for me. Great films that have been diluted by poor sequels. Great show, fellas. Keep it up. Vampiro 2K21.
That's a hard question because I do like some of. I like sequels a lot. So, which ones don't need a sequel?
Which ones do we feel should not have got sequels, or that were diluted by their sequels? For me, probably RoboCop. I like RoboCop 2, but for me, I think RoboCop 1 should have probably been a one-and-done film.
I can see that, but I still like the other two as well, though.
3's not bad.
It's not as bad as everybody says.
Yeah, no, it's not. I've rewatched that because I
mean, you take out the jetpack, it's actually got a decent story.
Well, people hated on it immediately because Peter Weller wasn't in it, but he didn't want to be in it anymore.
Yeah,
I think it took a little bit of coercion to get him to come back for 2. But for me, I'd probably say RoboCop. Even though I do like 2, I would probably say RoboCop.
Yeah, give me a second on this.
Yeah,
one.
man, that's a hard one. I don't know. I like movies, but I'm not a big cinephile, so I've not seen a lot. So.
I mean, hell, I got Back to the Future Parts 2 and 3 posters in my room.
Dude, those movies, yeah, but no, every one of those movies are bangers, I think.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see getting rid of any of those.
Well, the movies had sequels. Let's see, Pirates, I like those.
Those are good.
Resident Evil, most people don't like them. I just have weird taste in movies. That's what it is.
I love the Mila Jovovich ones, but I'm not connected to the video games. I'm not a video game person. Like a lot of fans are, and I totally understand. You don't like them, that's fine.
I'll have to come back to this.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to that one, Vampiro. All
right, Vampiro, I'm going to think on this, and I'm going to give you an answer on the next episode.
Yeah, next episode, Sean will give you his answer. But for me, I'll say RoboCop. For me, even though, again, I love 2 as well, but I'll say RoboCop. Because, God, that other one they did, that remake, no, I can't stand that remake. Even though Michael Keaton's in it, I can't stand that remake of RoboCop. It's terrible. You don't take the beautiful silver suit that you introduced early in the movie and go all black because we want to make him more urban and stealthy. No. No. You don't do that.
All right, so we're going to talk about Green Lantern colors. Is that what?
Yeah, just real briefly. First of all, why you hate Hal Jordan? And
it just comes off as a douchebag, and I don't like it.
This is the first thing you've read, though, right? I know you read Blackest Night.
I read Blackest
Night. He wasn't douchey in Blackest Night.
He's just no Jon Stewart.
What's so dag? No, I was kidding.
Because he's the man.
John is good. He is good. I mean, he was the backup guy when Hal quit the Lantern Corps in the 80s. And he was the guy called to take over. John is good. I give you shit about it. He is good, though. I mean, he was the star of the cartoon.
But again, I don't have a lot of experience with Lantern either.
Yeah,
so it's mostly the animated stuff, the movies.
Right. So Green Lantern, you would go Jon Stewart as your favorite Green Lantern?
I would.
Okay. Well, mine's going to be Hal Jordan. Kyle Rayner, close second. I love Kyle throughout his run. It's just, again, with his open-mindedness and his creativity, being an artist and stuff, the way they created him, it's just crazy seeing his constructs and everything. And he went through a lot, too. Yeah. I mean, he lost Alex. She was refrigerated. And he goes through relationships with Alan Scott's daughter. And it's just, it's a great run. Kyle Rayner's run is really great.
He seems pretty cool.
He is. The other cores, which one do you think would you join out of all the other ones?
I got 2.
You got 2? Okay.
First one would be the Red.
Rage. The Red Lantern's Rage. Okay. Now just remember, unless it's changed, once you become a Red Lantern, you can never not be a Red Lantern. You'll die. Well, yeah, Supergirl did. She flew into the sun, and it burned away from her. But anybody else, if you try to leave the Red Lanterns, it'll basically kill you because it's connected to your heart. That's why basically
I kind of like that.
When you see them in the comic books back in the day when they were created, I think it was blood, or it looked like blood coming out of some of their mouths when they were talking and angry.
It's like a blood passion type thing. Like,
yeah.
You sign in blood, you know?
Basically. Yeah. It's all about that anger and rage is what they're about.
It's kind of like being a Sith Lord. That's why I like
well,
it.
Yeah, probably.
And then the other one would be the Black, because they just look badass.
That's death.
Yeah. So apparently I'm just evil.
Well, now.
What about you?
Besides Green Lantern being my number one, I would probably go with blue.
Blue.
They're hope. They represent hope. I think I would go with blue. Yeah. So be Green Lantern first, and then Blue Lantern second for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So real quick, since we've chosen our lanterns.
Ooh. Is this like our horoscopes now?
No. These are these may have been updated since this, but these are the oaths.
I was going to say, we're going to have to post those on the social media side.
These are our oaths. We'll get yours first. Your Red Lantern oath is, with blood and rage of crimson red, ripped from a corpse so freshly dead, together with our hellish hate, will burn you all. That is your fate.
See, that's totally metal, man.
And your Black Lantern oath is, the blackest night falls from the skies. The darkness grows as all light dies. We crave your hearts and your demise. By my black hand, the dead shall arise.
Oh, yeah.
And then mine, the Green Lantern one, is, in brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. And the blue one is, in fearful day, in raging night, with strong hearts full, our souls ignite. When all seems lost in the war of light, look to the stars, for hope burns bright.
Sorry, that one's kind of lame.
You hush your mouth. If it's good enough for Flash, it's
The best one is the orange one.
Oh,
what is mine
the
is
orange
mine.
one. Yes. Let's read that one real quick for the listeners here.
That was
let
pretty
me
good.
let me find it. Here we go. What's mine is mine, and mine and mine, and mine and mine and mine, not yours.
It reminds me of those birds. Mine.
Mine.
That's funny.
And just real quickly, I also had the Sinestro Corps, which would be the yellow lanterns, basically.
The fear one.
The Fear one. And at one point, there was a Sinestro Corps War series that ran, or a mini series or whatever that ran, and Sinestro was eventually booted out of the Corps, and it was taken over by another character in the Corps. His name was Arquillo. He's a big, hulking-looking alien guy. And when Sinestro was part of them, his oath was, in blackest day and brightest night, beware your fears made into light. Let those who try to stop what's right burn like my power, Sinestro's might. Then when Arquillo took him over, he changed it just a little bit. In blackest day and brightest night, beware your fears made into light. Let those who try to stop what's right burn like my power, Arquillo's might. So, yeah, there's different ones. I think you picked some good ones, though.
Oh, yeah.
You picked the meanest ones.
I mean, hey.
You picked the hate ones and you picked the death ones.
I mean, if Hal Jordan known, he would, he would have fit right in.
So, in honor of Sean's induction into the Red Lanterns and Black Lanterns, I brought some some lantern rings that I purchased years ago. It was a set that was put out to promote the Blackest Night story.
I forgot all about those.
And they were plastic rings. Hey, probably made for kids, but hey, adults can wear them too. And you had all the different Lantern Corps rings, each with their own, they were color coded, solid plastic. So, Sean, here is your Black Lantern ring to officially make you a Black Lantern.
Sweet.
And
You're going to die.
Well, let me go get a White Lantern to counteract it. And let me see, where is it? Here we are.
You're like, sorry, wife, I got a new wedding ring.
And here is your, let me get a different one. That one's a little warpy. I've had it in these bags forever. And here is your Red Lantern ring. Oh. Remember, once it's on for life.
That's what she said, too.
So now Sean is a honorary member of the Red and Black Lantern Corps. So whenever you see him, run the hell away.
Can you be in more than one?
No. I don't think so. Again, I don't know about now, but at the time of these stuff, and my last remembrance, I think you could only be one at a time.
See, that'd make a good story, because they could do like the parallax thing again with somebody different.
Yeah.
And have them get all 5 rings, and it would be like Thanos.
There may have been a story somewhere that I have not read that you might be allowed to be more than one.
I'm telling you, DC Comics, you should hire me.
There might have been a moment in the Brightest Day storyline that came after Blackest Night to where Kyle Rayner might have had multiple rings, but I don't remember. If anybody out there remembers, listeners, post it on our socials and remind me, because unfortunately my brain's a little mushy on the Green Lantern lore because I've been out of it for a little while. But as far as I remember, no, you could only be in one corps at a time.
Okay.
But I might be wrong about that.
That'd be something interesting. If anybody knows, send it in.
Definitely. If you got any Green Lantern knowledge or trivia, or again, your favorite Green Lantern, your favorite other corps from the emotional spectrum, let us know on our socials which one it is and why.
All right, that does it for today. Go check it out. And if you want to find us, message us, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, the Geeks with Beards Pod. And then you can email us at geekswithbeardspod, P-O-D, at gmail.com. It's the coolest email you're going to email today.
Yeah, let's get that email going.
And, before we go, we're going to do something special for our next episodes. Halloween is coming up, and we had a special request on our Discord for a certain comic called The Long Halloween.
Ooh.
Yes, this is a very good story, a very good Batman story. So what we're going to do on this one, where it's so many issues, we're going to do 3 episodes on it, 4 issues apiece, and look for those all throughout October, maybe at the beginning of November as well. And if you have any stories or questions about that particular comic, send them in too.
Yeah, because see, I've never read that comic. I have no idea.
You're in for a treat.
And the reason we did the 3-episode breakdown is it's 12 issues. My brain's hard to consume that much information. And I think even if we did it into 2 6-issue ones, it might be a little tough.
That's a lot. We have jobs and...
That's true. Yeah, we got full-time jobs and stuff. And, you've got your... and family, and you've got your music and everything, So we fit it in the best we can. But we think it'd be easier and a little bit better to consume and better for you guys that we'll be able to give you a more in-depth description and talk about the comic book by doing 4 issues like that. That way we're not muddling through it. We're able to focus more on it.
Oh, and maybe next episode we'll do our Beetlejuice breakdown.
That's right. Yeah, we both have seen Beetlejuice. So next episode, if we get a chance, we'll do a quick spoiler review for that too as well.
That'll work.
I liked it.
I did as well.
So yeah, that'll do us on episode 8 of the Geeks with Beard podcast. We'll catch you next time with The Long Halloween. And remember, if you are an evil person, the Green Lanterns will get you. Goodbye, everybody.
I'm scared.
Geeks with beards. Geeks with beards. Look who's here. Geeks with beards. No need to fear. We're right here. We got beards. So listen clear. Geeks with beards. Geeks with beards. Look who's here. Geeks with beards. No need to fear. We're right here. I'm in your ear. So listen clear, no one else doing it like us. Also, we just might cuss, just cuz. No, we ain't playing, and we're just saying, and we're making a podcast. It's called